Many thanks for joining me today on the Marketplace. Welcome back. The National Insurance Commission, NIC, with funding support from the Alliance Green Revolution Africa Agra, is to establish a comprehensive policy for agric insurance. According to the NIC, this policy will be targeted at smallholder farmers to cushion them against risks and uncertainties associated with farming in the country. Commissioner of Insurance Justice Yaofori spoke to Joy Business at a two-day draft agricultural insurance policy workshop. Bismarck Ausa has more.
The draft agricultural insurance policy will be an amendment of the existing Insurance Act, Act 724, for provision of agricultural insurance in the country. The NIC is optimistic the draft, if accepted, will not only increase insurance penetration and coverage, but also create jobs for the youth. Justice Yaofori is the Commissioner of Insurance.
Sincerely apologize for the loss of sound there. We'll bring the story later in the course of the bulletin. Moving on, the head of Actuarial Division of the National Insurance Commission, Albert Oku-Dagadu, says the NIC and other stakeholders are collaborating to improve technology to attract more insurance customers. This is to help improve insurance penetration. He said the National Insurance Commission continues to look forward to provide more innovative ways to help grow the insurance sector. The call for insurance penetration increases. The head of Actuarial Division at the National Insurance Commission, Albert Oku-Dagadu, said there are more innovative ways to increase insurance penetration. According to him, the NIC is using technological advancement to ensure the insurance industry looks more attractive. Mr. Dagadu spoke at the launch of the Prue Wealth Plan by Prudential Life Insurance.
From the perspective of the Commission, I mean, we are ensuring that we are using technology. For instance, I digress a bit from life insurance to general insurance, more especially motor insurance. You may have heard that we are introducing a motor insurance database. So that database is going to be connected with other relevant agencies. We are in conversations with the DVLA, the police, and other relevant agencies. So there is that interconnectedness. Once you get insured, you get a motor insurance, or you get a vehicle license at the DVLA, and you go to get insurance, all the information can be downloaded directly.
He added that although the cleanup in the banking sector had an impact on the insurance sector, he is of the belief that the insurance industry is promising.
Certainly, I mean, anything that's got to do with money, people, there will be some trepidation and the like. But we are hopeful that by the end of the year, we will still see some growth within the industry.
The board chair of the Prudential Life Insurance Ghana, Professor Ajimanbedu Akonsa, called on the NIC and other stakeholders to widen the age limit to include people in their old age bracket in life insurance.
We live in a country where our life expectancy is increasing. Once upon a time, it was 43. Now we can say that for men, it is 60, for women it's 62. Somewhere else, it's 85. So in those communities, age is now no barrier for anything. So insurance companies who live in England, live in Japan, even at 85, you can go and start an insurance company. You can say that once you're more than 60, we require you to do a medical exam. And once the medical exam satisfies that you're okay, then why not? And I'm saying people of my age who have finished looking after their children have a lot more disposable income and therefore can do this very easily.
The Prue Wealth Plan is a policy that provides the benefits of life insurance to Ghanaians. And that was Alberta BCU's report. Now, economist Professor Eric Osesibe is proposing expenditure cuts to help deal with the serious revenue shortfalls that have hit the economy. This follows reports that the government is going to end this year not meeting the revenue target of about 58 billion Ghana cedis. Professor Osesibe tells Joy Business this expenditure cut should be carried out not to hurt the economy.
Most prudent way for us to do. I'm even looking at the 2020, but even for the rest of the year, I think the best way out is to making sure that we spend what we have, because our credibility is at stake, and our ability to even maintain and get the private sector on the side of government, the development partners on the side of government for the year 2020 is key, because we talk about what we call time inconsistency problems. If you are unable to meet this year's target, you'll begin to lose credibility and you begin to incur reputational costs, which means that it will be very difficult for you to meet your next year's target. So in order to be able to maintain the confidence that the private sector, the development partners, DFI, development finance institutions have on government, it behoves of government to ensure that come what may, it actually meet this year's target. It's key. So if it calls for us cutting expenditure, it has to do. But most important thing also is when you're cutting expenditure, you have to make sure that you don't compromise on your growth levels. You have to make sure that you reprioritize your expenditure, you do expenditure rationalization to ensure that you spend on growth enhancing sectors of the economy, and you cut down on expenditures that do not directly enhance growth, particularly on goods and services and on consumption expenditures. There are certain expenditures that you cannot do much about because they are statutory. You can't touch them, the interest payments and then the salaries, compensation, and the statutory payment, the EMR funds. You can't. But then the little fiscal space that you have to make sure that you spend it in areas that are productive, in investment that are self-liquidating, that would go to accelerate your growth. Because once you're able to accelerate growth this year, you expand the base of the economy, and next year you are more likely to meet your revenue target. Otherwise, if you are not able to stimulate growth, it's really going to be difficult for next year for government to be able to ramp up revenue to support expenditures.
Now moving to other stories, a research fellow at the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, Dr. Fred Janku, has stated the government's Ghana Beyond Aid agenda should be tied to a long-term national development plan with an effective implementation strategy to yield the desired results. He was speaking on the business edition of PM Express on the theme Ghana Beyond Aid, regular rhetoric or actionable agenda. Dr. Janku believes the Ghana Beyond Aid is only a starting point which should be backed with full commitment.
The problems we have is not necessarily because of a lack of a good plan. Look at the policies we have. I think the issue has to do with implementation of those plans. So I would say that it's a good starting point to tie these things. If we have a non-partisan debate and we agree that as a country, this is where we want to go, we want to have a Ghana Beyond Aid, why not? We can tie it into the whole development agenda, i.e. into the 40-year development plan. But it's not the panacea to our crises, our problems or our challenges that we face in this country. I mean, you can have a good plan. What if the structure of the economy doesn't change and you don't have enough, capital to implement those plans? It's one thing to have a plan. It's another thing to implement those plans. And to implement those plans, you need, financing. One of the things you need. So yes, let's start with that. Let's have the agenda. Let's agree to put it in if we all agree as a country. But I doubt if that will be the solution. It's a good starting point, but it will not be a solution if our structure, the structure of our economy, remains the same.
Meanwhile, Dr. Fred Janku believes the structure of the economy needs to change.
We are doing that because the so-called Georgesburg economy that we inherited, which the president has talked about, has not changed a lot in terms of structure. If you look at the structure of our economy, it's still largely gold, cocoa, and oil. And worst of all, we are not using even those resources that we have in terms of manufacturing, where the jobs can be created. Right. So if we still have this kind of structure of an economy, it's difficult to say that we are on the path to where we want to be. Some efforts are being made. Of course, I talked about, we talked about, is it the 1D, 1F, right? One district, one factory. All these are beautiful initiatives. I think they are good initiatives. It's good to be ambitious. So I think they are nice initiatives. But again, it comes to the bottleneck of implementation, how we are implementing them.
This is live on the marketplace. Let's get back to our earlier story. The National Insurance Commission, NIC, with funding support from the Alliance Green Revolution for Africa, AGRA, is to establish a comprehensive policy for agric insurance. According to the NIC, this policy will be targeted at smallholder farmers to cushion them against risks and uncertainties associated with farming. Commissioner of Insurance Justice Yaufori spoke to Joy Business at the two-day draft agric insurance policy workshop. Bismarck Ausa was there.
The draft agricultural insurance policy will be an amendment of the existing Insurance Act, Act 724, for provision of agricultural insurance in the country. The NIC is optimistic the draft, if accepted, will not only increase insurance penetration and coverage, but also create jobs for the youth. Justice Yaufori is the Commissioner of Insurance.
Although we have some kind of agric insurance on our market that is being sold by the agric insurance pool, we don't have a national policy. So we have people who need insurance but they can't afford it. We are looking at coming out with a policy to present to government, and if government accepts it, then it's going to be a national policy whereby government can intervene. There will be some kind of mechanism to intervene when people run into losses as a result of maybe weather, bad weather and other issues. That is going to also motivate people to actually enter into agric, because they know that there's some kind of insurance to back them up should the unforeseen happen.
Director of Financial Services at the Ministry of Finance, Samson Akligo, in a speech read on his behalf, says the policy will help improve the country's socio-economic development.
A well-functioning agric landscape has the potential to transform the sector. As government develop policies to promote agricultural insurance in the country, we believe it will increase productivity, competitiveness, financial inclusion, in the course of alleviating poverty, stabilizing farmers' income, and establishing food security and self-sufficiency for the country.
Other stakeholders to the draft include the Ghana Insurance Association, Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Bureau of Integrated Rural Development of the KNUST, among others. Bismarck Ausa, Joy Business.
The Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, says it is disappointed the country's law enforcement and other agencies for failing to enforce laws barring foreigners from engaging in retail trade. GUTA's leaders have mentioned the Ghana Immigration Service and the Ghana Standards Authority for being complicit to the development, which has also resulted in the influx of substandard goods on the local market. Foreign business operators at Swami Magazine in the Central Business District of Kumasi had their shops locked up by their Ghanaian counterparts on Thursday. GUTA Secretary for the Ashanti region, Daniel Owahine Champong, says they will, however, not be deterred from pursuing their stance on ridding the market of illegalities.
We have met the government on so many occasions. We sit down with them, especially the Ministry of Trade. We have sat down with the GIPC. We have engaged so many state institutions. And whenever you engage them, what they say is that they admit that the laws should work. But who should enforce the laws? The state agencies, especially the Immigration Service, the GIPC, the Standard Authority, the GSA, Ghana Standard Authority, and the likes. But we don't see these state institutions coming to the ground to enforce our laws. So what we are seeing is that you were invited previously to our press conference, which we gave the government that these laws that we have spoken with them on so many times, that they should make our laws, that is the domestic laws, work. They should make sure that it works or it bites. But what do we see? These foreigners come here and then the only thing that they do is they set up tabletops, and then they start trading without conforming or without making sure that all these laws that we have spoken about, they satisfy them. So what we are saying is that enough is enough. In collaboration with the other regions and the national in Accra, we have decided that it's about time that we make the laws work. We will go to the grounds. When we come to the foreigners, we will tell them to shut the door, and then we paste this on the metal gate of the store, and then we tell you that the laws of the land does not permit you to do the retailing. So the Ministry of Trade gave this public notice. You should go to them, and then if they clear you that you have all the basic requirements to engage in the retail trade, that is fine. So we are disappointed in the government, and we are disappointed in the state agencies, and we are not going to relent our oars until the right things are done.
And still in Kumasi, the Association of Ghana Industries has implored the Trades and Industry Ministry to formulate deliberate policies to protect and promote made-in-Ghana products. Zonal Vice Chair of the Association of Ghana Industries, Kwesi Nyamiche, believes it will empower local businesses to compete effectively on the global front. He spoke with Love Business at the opening of the 3-day Made-in-Ghana Street Fair in Kumasi. Prince Apia was at the opening of the fair and our reports.
So today opened the Made in Ghana Fair, Kumasi Street Fair, I should say, in Edum in Ashanti region. And the main reason is to bring together a number of SMEs and individual businesses to exhibit their wares to especially the local people and those coming from the diaspora. Now, a number of businesses and individuals have come from the diaspora as part of the Year of Return to take part in this particular venture. The Ministry of Trade and Industry is the organizer. Intim Donko is Regional Director in charge of domestic trade at the ministry.
And this fair is important because it brings our SMEs directly to the consumers as well as investors. Where they cannot go, they are brought to them, and they can network and thereby create a wider connection.
Here are some of the exhibitors.
It's 100% handmade in Ghana. Well, my expectation through this fair is to connect with new people, new customers, new distributors, and new suppliers. And it's been awesome, yeah.
As the name goes, it's Made in Ghana Fair, and we have Made in Ghana products. In fact, it's a premium product made right here in Kumasi, and that is 360 Naturals. So our expectation is to maximize our clientele base. That's the reason why we came for this fair. For the product to be available to all.
The Ashanti Regional Boss of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Stephen Champon, advised local businesses to take advantage of the fair.
This is a wake-up call for all our brethren and Ghanaians who are in one way or the other businesses, that they will do good business, they will produce, and what is important is they will take care of quality, documentation, and all the best practices, so that we can also take advantage of our brethren in diaspora and then do business with them.
Meanwhile, Zonal Vice Chair of the Association of Ghana Industries, Kwesi Nyamiche, wants government to form policies to support made-in-Ghana products.
I mean, we've been doing exports most of the time to the West African neighbors, but we want to go outside of Africa. So it's an opportunity for us to introduce our products to the rest of the world. And we want the Ministry of Trade and Industry, organizers of the program, to use this opportunity to actually formulate policies to enhance products made in Ghana.
One of the major things that authorities are seeking is for the local businesses and the SMEs to collaborate and partner with the persons and the businesses coming from the diaspora for enhancement of their businesses. My name is Prince Apia, reporting from Kumasi.
And as a reminder, the annual Joy Prime Made in Ghana Fair enters day 2 at the Nungwa Junction Mall in Accra. The 4-day fair is focused on exhibiting Ghanaian culture, its originality and authenticity, and of course, your patronage is very much desired. Now, away from that, Guinness Ghana Brewery says it is looking to source up to 70% of its raw materials locally to support wealth and job creation for farmers. Speaking at a stakeholders engagement on the company's local content policy, the Corporate Relations Director of Guinness Ghana Breweries, Sylvia Usuankuma, called for more government support for businesses.
Currently, Guinness Ghana sources 55% of its raw materials, which include maize, sorghum and cassava, from some 30,000 local farmers across the country. This, according to the Corporate Relations Director, is to ensure sustainability along the production value chain, as well as support government initiatives such as the Planting for Food and Jobs and the One District, One Factory initiative to create wealth for farmers. She, however, noted the company is looking to increase the local raw material base to 70%.
We implemented a strategic objective of ensuring that the manufacturing of our brands are done with local raw materials. So from 2007 to date, what Guinness Ghana has sought to do is to increasingly uptake local raw materials in production. So starting from a place of just using about 12% within our brands, we're currently at 55% and we're aiming to get to 70% by 2020. This is a journey that we would continue because it has a two-leg fold. Not only does it impact our production, but also has an impact on the communities that we're operating in.
The Corporate Relations Director further called for more policy support from government for local businesses to support such initiatives.
So essentially, yes, it's an exercise policy that gives us some form of reprieve when we source materials locally, and we're advocating that this framework is sustained so that we see the full value and the full impact of the policy that government put in place. So again, like I said, it's a continuous dialogue. Whilst government is seeking to improve and provide food, create jobs, government's policy intervention for planting for food and jobs, we as businesses have translated that into how we effectively source our materials within the local farming communities. Over 13 regions out of the 16 in Ghana today are impacted by the work that we're doing in our local raw material sourcing value chain. So that is just a demonstration of how Guinness Ghana is enabling the policy, or is using the policy intervention, and we advocate that this policy is sustained for the long term to ensure that we derive the full benefits of it.
Meanwhile, the Managing Director for Guinness Ghana Limited also indicated that the sourcing of raw materials locally has helped reduce the demand for foreign currencies for import. For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo reporting.
And just before we go, the Wenchi Municipal Assembly in the Bono region is closely working with stakeholders to ensure a new warehouse being constructed under the One District, One Warehouse initiative gets completed on time. According to the Wenchi Municipal Chief Executive, Dr. Prince Kwache Fiyi, work on the 100,000-ton storage facility should be completed within the next few weeks. Dr. Fiyi, who was speaking during the Meet the Press series at Wenchi, stated that all the necessary building materials and equipment to be installed are on site, construction work to be completed on schedule. Fabricated warehouse is being funded by the $1 million per constituency allocation under the agriculture infrastructure component of government's Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication program. Wenchi Municipal Chief Executive Dr. Prince Kwache Fiyi said provision of the storage facility is targeted at ensuring a continuous flow of farm produce, creating opportunities along the agricultural value chain and supporting implementation of government's Planting for Food and Jobs initiative.
Very soon, our 100,000 capacity warehouse will be ready. You see, you said they should plant maize, they should do this. So if the harvest is slow, where are you going to store it? So it tells you that the president is for all the value chain to make sure that we don't produce the maize or the cocoa and say we don't have a place to store it. Commodity exchange is also located in Wenchi. Therefore, if you have the maize and you feel that the price is not good for you, you can go there, you get some token money, keep it there. When the price goes to the peak, they will sell it and deduct whatever they are giving you so that you get the rest of the money.
When complete, the 100,000-ton capacity warehouse will contain an office, a laboratory, resting rooms with attached sanitary facility, as well as a solar-powered grain dryer, amongst others. Nesta Kafuya Jomes reports. And that's where we draw the curtains on today's edition of The Marketplace. It's been so great having you on board the whole week. My name is Emmanuel Boaji. I've been joining you again same time next week, Monday, for more interesting developments in the world of business. Have a great weekend.